Welcome back to another week of What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. Lots for you this week. Locallicious is back, a culinary delight, a chance to get out and experience local, independent cuisine at some pretty good prices. Canada's Kids got a D in physical activity in Participaction's latest report card. We get some insight as to how that happened and how we can fix it. It's considered the second most important rock and roll concert after Woodstock. It happened in Toronto, but it nearly didn't happen. Now there's a movie about it. We talked to the director. But first, municipal elections are next week across Ontario. A new mayor to be elected in Barrie with Jeff Lehman stepping down. We invited the candidates looking to replace him to come in to tell us what they have planned if they become the city's next mayor. Two accepted our invitation. Alex Nuttall is one of them. He's with Barrie 360's Ian McLennan.
Alex, why did you throw your hat into the ring?
You know, I've had the opportunity over the last number of years to serve the city of Barrie in a few different roles, as a city councillor, as a member of parliament. And, you know, I was looking at the city and the future of it, and I'm looking at my own children. And, you know, I want a city where, they can certainly grow up in safe and clean, a city where they can get educated in if they decide to pursue post-secondary education, a city that they can find a job in once they're done their post-secondary education, and one that they can invest in as a small business person if they so choose. And so, you know, I think for me, those are the driving reasons. I think we've got some issues that we need to work through, but Barrie's a beautiful place, and it's an incredible community, and certainly has been an honor to represent the city of the past.
Many challenges Barrie is facing, a lot of communities are facing, and especially the bread and butter issues. Now, what are you hearing from people at the door when you're knocking on the door?
I think one of the most discouraging days on my campaign that I encountered, I was on Livingston Street East door knocking, and in a span of 5 folks I spoke to, 3 of them talked about losing hope. And that was a really difficult thing to hear. They were losing hope in the affordability of Barrie. They were losing hope in being able to stay in the city for much longer. And I think that they were losing hope that their children could ever purchase a home. There are things that we can do, right? There's our operating budget. We're proposing that we hold the line for 4 years while we see what happens with inflation, see what happens with interest rates, and certainly what appears to be a recession on the horizon, if not already here. And make sure that we don't do anything that's going to put folks further behind.
If you're elected mayor, obviously you hit the ground running. You also have a budget to do, and we talk about the first 100 days at the provincial and federal level. What will the first 100 days look under Alex Nuttall as mayor of Barrie?
Yeah, well, I will go right back to my priorities. Number one, I will work with staff and council to get together a set of priorities and a vision statement for the city of Barrie. I think the question we need to answer is, what do we want to be in the next 20 years? Number two, I would make sure that we get our inventory list of roads that need fixing done right away. We would immediately start lobbying the provincial government, the penitentiary, to stop the prisoner drop-off in downtown Barrie. We would get right to work on the budget so that we can have things balanced for the new year. And I really think that, as we're moving forward, we need to go back to the drawing board on employment land here in the city of Barrie to make sure that there's enough employment land to grow the city. Right now we have 45,000 people moving to the annexation area, 45,000 people moving to downtown through intensification, but we only have enough land for 10,000 jobs. So we got to figure that out, and we got to start today.
Our Ian McLennan in conversation with Barrie mayoral hopeful Alex Nuttall. Ian will be back later in the program with candidate Gerry Marshall. The pandemic didn't do our kids any favors when it comes to their physical health. Participaction's latest report card gives Canadian kids a D for physical activity, while their screen time skyrocketed. Barrie 360's Will Konken gets the details and some homework from Dr Nicholas Kuzik at Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario.
Was this report card grade of D for overall physical activity in children and youth surprising to you?
Well, I think there are some surprising aspects to it. We would expect that due to COVID, physical activity levels in children and youth would decrease. They lost a lot of opportunities during COVID. So we think about, closing sports, schools being shut down in some instances, and even things like parks and recreation spaces being taken away at the beginning of the pandemic. So it's not necessarily surprising that the grade decreased, but that it didn't decrease more is maybe the more surprising aspect. And so we did see some creative solutions from families and communities to preserve some of those physical activity opportunities for children and youth.
So do you think this is just a blip in the data for this period of time?
Well, we'd like to hope so. It's difficult without, really getting in there and continuing to collect that data. And that's what we'll be doing in 2024 when the next report card comes out. We'll be able to have a better answer for how this recovery effort is going.
And then what is considered an active child or youth?
So the 60 minutes per day of moderate to vigorous physical activity is, I guess, what we would consider an active child in Canada. And this is based on the Canadian 24-hour movement guidelines. So just thinking about the activity, that 60 minutes per day would be effective. But there's also other guidelines within the Canadian 24-hour movement guidelines, so things like sleep and sedentary behaviors that are important to consider as well within the whole day of a child.
How easily achievable is it to get an A or an A+ grade for physical activity? Is it attainable? And have we seen it before in a larger scale?
We haven't seen it in Canada. In terms of how easy is it, how achievable is it, since 2007, we were seeing slight increases in our grades. So starting at an F in 2007, we were seeing slight increases or remaining the same since 2007. And it's very reflective of, personal behavior change when we think about this. It's not necessarily these overnight turning to an A+ being this perfect society. It's these slow incremental changes to getting better over time that are what we really needed. Maybe it's not the most interesting or appealing when it's not that overnight success, but that is sort of how behavior change works in a lot of senses.
How much do kids learn physical activity habits from their parents?
I think the role of the family is very important, and it's something that we talk about when giving recommendations as well, is having the parents being the person that they look up to, so the mentor or the role model within the house. And even thinking about, some of those successes that we saw, some of those creative solutions for why physical activity didn't decrease more was partly responsible because of the active play increase grade. So parents were getting outside more with their families, and we're having more of that outdoor active play, nature-based, on the trails, sort of physical activities.
How can parents build on this to get their kids outside and more active?
Well, I think just continuing on with the successes and those creative solutions of having that outdoor time. If parents and families created these new habits of, the only way we can be active and maintain social distancing is by being outside, keep going with it. If it seems like a great habit that's forming with the family, keep finding those opportunities.
We really appreciate your insight on the latest grade from Participaction. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you very much for having me.
That was Dr. Nicholas Kuzik, postdoctoral fellow at the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario.
This is what Barrie's talking about from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. Locallicious is back, a treat for your taste buds, serving up an opportunity to experience many of our local independent restaurants at special prices. Here again is Ian McLennan with Locallicious director Ryan Traversy and one of the sponsors, Peggy Hill.
What was the impact with the pandemic, first of all, that, obviously there was a little change of plans then?
Yeah, a little change of pace. I mean, obviously, a lot of restaurants had to close down. So, we lost out on doing a couple of our dine-in festivals. We did squeeze in. We got a bit of a government grant, which was nice. So, squeeze in a takeout festival to support the small little local guys around town. But now that we're back to full force here, let's go.
And let's talk about the growth of this festival too. I think it started out with about 16 restaurants, and now you can be as many as over 50. Why this resurgence? Why this popularity?
Well, when we first started 2008, I was kind of rolling around like a vacuum salesman to each door to try to get people to sign on. And we started with 16 restaurants, and it just kind of grew. It blew up. Those restaurants were very busy, so every year, we got bigger and bigger. And if we're anywhere from 40 to 50 restaurants, just local guys too, no big box shops, then it's a success.
And Peggy, I'd like to ask you, because you are so much a part of the community, Barrie, and marketing the wonderful things we have within Barrie. The restaurants here, they're all independent, not the franchisees, so to speak. Why is that important to you to get behind an event like this?
Well, the mom and pop shop is really where I came from. So for me, it's like going home and being able to help all these people that were so affected during the pandemic. It's amazing to be part of this. And, Barrie's kind of my thing.
What is going to happen at this event? Give us some of the highlights of what people will get when they put their money down and how much they put down.
Well, it's a fixed price menu, so anywhere from $15 a person up to about $35 a person, and you just get multiple courses. And each restaurant's offering their own style, their own flavor. You just got to jump on the website, locallicious.ca, and check out the menus and make some reservations.
And is that the key too? That these are independent operators, and we're supporting supporting them local. It's giving back local.
That's the best part.
Is that the key component of this event too?
It's all local. I mean, so, twice a year we pool our money together, do some advertising, find some awesome sponsors to help us out, and just try to get some butts in the seats for your next door neighbor, the guy around the corner, right? The local chefs.
And you can do takeout as well?
Absolutely.
Locallicious begins October 21st and runs through November 6th, offering 3-course dinners for between $15 and $35. For a list of participating restaurants, check out locallicious.ca. What Barrie's Talking About is a weekly podcast featuring the best Barrie has to offer and more. You can make it easy to connect by subscribing to What Barrie's Talking About through most podcast distributors. Still to come on What Barrie's Talking About, we talk with Ron Chapman, who directed the film Revival 69, chronicling a concert in Toronto that featured John Lennon, The Doors, Chicago, Chuck Berry, and a little-known band called Alice Cooper, and more. We also chat with Barrie mayoral hopeful Gerry Marshall. Now this.
Day by day, we get closer to the Rock 95 birthday bash happening Friday, November 18th at the Paul Sadlin Arena. We got Sam Roberts, the special guest monster, trucking over $100,000 in prizes to give away. But here are just a few shows to tie you over in the meantime. Like October 24th at Scotiabank Arena, the Smashing Pumpkins and Jane's Addiction are going to be in town with the Spirits on Fire tour. October 27th at the Aurelia Opera House, you got Dwayne Gretzky. November 10th in History in Toronto, you got Steel Panther. And on the same day at the Danforth Music Hall, it's the Blue Stones. November 12th at Casino-Rama, they have April Wine. November 19th is the Danforth Music Hall again. They got Matthew Good. November 23rd at the Paul Sadlin Arena here in Barrie, it's 3 Days Grace. November 25th at Casino-Rama, you can check out the Bare Naked Ladies. And November 27th at History, they've got 3 Days Grace. And if you want to check out details on any of these shows or maybe win your way into the Rock 95 Birthday Bash, visit rock95.com.
Rock 95.
This is What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. It is considered the second most important event in rock and roll history, the Toronto Rock and Roll Revival at Varsity Stadium in 1969, featuring John Lennon, The Doors, Chicago, Chuck Berry, and more. But after much fanfare, it nearly didn't happen. The backstory, as interesting as the concert itself. Director Ron Chapman takes us back in his film Revival 69, which is featured at this year's Barrie Film Festival. Ron, what enticed you to do this film?
Well, I had made a film earlier called Who the Fuck is Arthur Fogle, which was a film about this Canadian that nobody knew about, and he was the most powerful guy in the music business. He had done 8 of the top 10 tours of all time, and in the film, I was with U2, I was with the Police, Lady Gaga, Madonna, Rush, all of these bands he had done, and he was head of Live Nation at that time, and nobody knew who he was, and he was a Canadian. So to me, and being a Canadian, I love Canadian stories, and I think there's so much about Canada that should be celebrated that people don't know about. It seems to be that's part of our culture. We don't like talking about the things that are great about us, but his story was incredible. No one knew about it, and so I wanted to bring that to the world, and I did. That film went out, and it played around the world, 54 countries. This particular film, Revival 69, about an event that happened in 1969 in Toronto, in Canada, the Toronto Rock and Roll Revival, was called by Rolling Stone the second most important event in rock and roll history. And nobody really knows about this event at all other than music insiders. And so, to me, I thought, somehow the world has to know about this festival. There's been 5 different remakes of Woodstock, of Altamont, of Monterey Pop, and people keep rehashing the same festivals again and again and again that happened back in 1969, which was, the summer of festivals, really. And yet this one keeps getting passed over, and it is just one of the most important events, certainly the most important event in Canadian music history. That was really my impetus for wanting to make this film.
And it nearly didn't happen.
It's an unbelievable story, and that's the other thing that so had me excited about making this film. It is an event that almost fell apart a whole bunch of times. And actually, what you're able to do in this film, what I was able to do, is to take you back to the 60s. It was a whole other area. I mean, now everybody's grown up with corporate rock, Live Nation, all of the big corporate conglomerates that sort of run concerts and music. But back then, the promoters, it was the Wild West for promoters. They were just kids. They were out there. They do whatever they could to make a show happen. There was no rule book. There was no playbook. No one had ever done this before. This was the first summer of actual festivals in Canada. There had never been any before. So they were writing the rule book, and the sequence of events that happened during this festival that led to John Lennon and the Plastic Ono Band appearing at the last minute, and John Lennon doing his first performance ever without the Beatles as John Lennon, it's an amazing narrative. It's a rock and roll roller coaster ride. It's an amazing sequence of events, and just one that I think Canadians are going to be amazed when they hear about it.
It's not just concert footage, it's what's going on behind the scenes in that phone call to John Lennon on a hope and a prayer that he might come in and MC, and then he decided, I guess, that he wanted to sing as well.
It's unbelievable. I mean, how could that happen in this day and age? Who's going to get on the phone? Hi, it's Ron Chapman. I'm phoning from Toronto. I want to speak to Bono. I want to speak to Lady Gaga. It doesn't happen. And yet, back in the day, you were actually able to do that. They were actually able to get through to him. And how many artists, like John Lennon, had never played with this band before, would put a band together and go play for 20, 30,000 people, having never actually had the opportunity to rehearse and get ready and do all the stuff that you do before you go and present yourself. It's real rock and roll. It's a kind of rock and roll spirit that doesn't exist in this corporate world, and it's just a magical story. And, it's not just about John Lennon. I mean, there was bike gangs. There's so many different things that happened in the course of this festival coming to pass and almost not coming to pass. It's just a phenomenal story.
I don't want to give away too much of it for people listening who want to go see it, but yeah, you talk about the bike gangs. There was an escort for John Lennon from the airport, but even from the time of the first phone call to John Lennon to the time he took the stage, he was humming and hawing. He wasn't sure whether he was going to do it.
It almost didn't happen a bunch of times, and the stakes were huge. There was a lot on the line. It's just a fantastic story, and one of the great untold story of Canadian music history. And
a lot of other players in there as well. You talked about the Plastic Ono Band. A very unheard of Alice Cooper band was on stage as well.
This was a concert where Alice Cooper discovered Alice Cooper. He was not the shock rock guy that he was, but this is where he really found his identity. It was the place where the historic Alice Cooper with the chicken incident happened. This is the concert that launched Alice's career that continues to this day. D.A. Pennebaker, who did the film Don't Look Back with Bob Dylan, as well as Monterey Pop, he heard about this and he came and shot this festival. And that footage was something I was able to get access to. I went to D.A. Pennebaker. He became an executive producer on this film with me. He unfortunately passed away during the making of the film, but he opened up the doors and allowed me to go through his boxes of footage that he had shot and packaged up and sent to the depths of Iron Mountain for storage since 1969. I went through 60 hours of footage and found never-before-seen footage of Jerry Lee Lewis, of Little Richard, of Bo Diddley, of Gene Vincent, and Chuck Berry, incredible performances by Chuck Berry, as well as by Chicago, that never before seen and Alice Cooper, and of course Plastic Ono Band. So you get to see these people performing and doing some of their music from that particular time. It's just an unbelievable treasure trove of material, and as I said, a gem of a story that'll keep you going from beginning to end. It doesn't let up. It's like put pedal to the metal all the way.
The film is Revival 69. The director is Ron Chapman. It is being screened tonight, October 20th, at the Galaxy Cinemas in Barrie, part of this year's Barrie Film Festival. As promised, to chat with another of the candidates for mayor in Barrie, Gerry Marshall, laying out his plans for our Ian McLennan.
So, Gerry, tell us why you are running to be mayor of the city of Barrie.
Well, originally I was going to run just to be a councillor in Ward 4, and when Mayor Jeff Lehman announced that he wasn't running again to be mayor, I reconsidered. I thought I had the political background, the corporate background, and the experience to bring to the table. Plus I'm here, my sons are here, my 5 grandkids are here, so, future Barrie's right in my family, 3 generations of Barrie, and I thought I could make a difference.
And you come back to the community. You were mayor of Penetanguishene and warden of the county of Simcoe, correct?
Yes, I was. Yeah, I had both roles at the same time. So what happens is the mayor of Penetanguishene, you're automatically part of county council, and county has 32 members of county council, and they voted me as the head warden.
Door knocking, meeting with people, and just from what you have seen as a resident of Barrie, what are the needs for this city, and what change can you bring, and what are residents telling you?
Well, really, when I look at the city, it's all about growth for us. We're growing at a rapid pace, so we're sprawling. We have traffic congestion. We've got speed of traffic, noise of traffic, unbuilt units. So growth is around us, everywhere I look. So managing that growth, having a long-term plan for growth, and, knowing where you want to be and how to get there is the key to the next election of council.
And the issue of affordability, inflation, and what have you, you hear it at the federal level, you hear it at the provincial level, but we obviously see it at a municipal level with expensive rents, affordable housing, homelessness, and what have you. Is that all part and parcel of a growing city on top of those other economic factors now?
Yeah, it absolutely are. And, homelessness, as we grow, we're not just going to get those who are financially stable or of good health. We're going to have those who need a helping hand up in life. Maybe you face a drug addiction issue or at the risk of being homeless or are homeless. So we need to plan for all of that as we move forward.
If you are elected mayor, we always talk about the first 100 days. So what would the first 100 days look like at City Hall as you as mayor? And we're rolling into budget time too.
A couple things. Number one, the first 100 days, I want to get a group of health experts together to sit around that table and look at our homelessness and our drug addiction issues in downtown core and right across the city. So I want to get that core group together right away. The other thing I want to look at immediately is get an economic development committee going. Council needs to be more involved in economic development. I'd like to see 2 members of council from the south end of Barrie and 2 from the north end of Barrie, and including myself to get together and look at the economic situation across the city and then engage properly to help our current businesses survive and thrive and to attract new businesses as well.
And Gerry, if people want more information about you and your campaign, where can they find that if they don't see, if they're not at the door, so to speak?
Yes, so Gerry Marshall, so gerrymarshall.ca, so nice and simple, so GERRYMARSHALL.ca.
We have more on what the candidates for mayor stand for on our webpage at Barrie360.com. And that's our program for this week. Thanks to Ian and Will for their contributions, Matt Ladder for piecing it all together, and you for giving it a listen. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About, rate it, review it. You can also keep up with What Barrie's Talking About on Facebook and Twitter at Barrie360 and on our website, Barrie360.com. I'm Dan Blakely. Hope you'll join us again next week.